Hello everyone and welcome to Shifting Gears, and this is the new KTM 390 Enduro R. As we all know, this KTM 390 Enduro R is a platform sibling. We first got the new generation 390 Duke, very recently we got the new generation 390 Adventure, and now for the hardcore off-road enthusiasts, we have this 390 Enduro R. Now this motorcycle is going to be much more capable off the road compared to the 390 Adventure 2, and this is built for that purpose. This is built to go off-road. If you consider the 390 Adventure series, that motorcycle has a 70-30 ratio. That is what KTM says, 70% on tarmac, 30% off the road. This 390 Enduro R, they say, is a 50-50 split, so you can ride it 50% on tarmac and 50% off the road, and you will enjoy this more. And let me tell you, this is day 2 for me with the KTM 390 Enduro R, and I have had a lot of fun off the road with this motorcycle compared to the 390 Adventure. And I am saying this with experience because I also owned the first generation first lot KTM 390 Adventure for more than 4 years, and this, the Enduro R, is a far more capable motorcycle when the tarmac ends and when you ride into the distance and reach locations like these. So if you like to have fun off the road, this motorcycle is a very potent package for you. But then you also have to keep in mind, this is not going to be that much more touring friendly as compared to the KTM 390 Adventure, because of course this is built for off-roading. You don't have a large windscreen, so if you want to do long distance touring, this is not going to be very sustainable at high speeds because you will keep feeling that wind blast. But then when you go off the road, this is going to be a lot more fun. So now you know the positioning of this product. Let us start this review first with the design details and the changes. Then I will speak about the ergonomics of this motorcycle, and then I will tell you how good is this bike to ride. So if you haven't subscribed to the Shifting Gears channel by now, do that. Press that bell icon so that you are notified every time we bring a fresh new video of a fresh new product for the Indian market, so that you can make an informed buying decision. And by the way, this 390 Enduro R is opening up a brand new segment here in the Indian market, especially in this engine size category and at this price point. So now this KTM 390 Enduro R, it looks very different compared to the 390 Adventure series, the new 390 Adventure of course. But then there are quite a few bits that are shared. There is actually a lot that is shared, even though the design details are very different. What you should notice, or what you should make note of, is that the main chassis and the subframe, they are the same. The suspension, although the numbers are the same in terms of the travel, the suspension tune is completely different. You get a 21-inch front and an 18-inch wheel at the back. These are tube spoked wheels. They are not tubeless spoked wheels. So these can take a little bit more beating in terms of going off-road, but these can get punctured, so that is something that you have to keep in mind. Now the tank of this motorcycle is also smaller. The fairing over here is also smaller, and then at the front you will notice that this headlamp unit is very different compared to the dome kind of a structure that you see on the 390 Adventure. So these are basically the primary design changes which are very visible to you. But of course then when you come up close, in terms of the rider's point of view, you also have this very small looking but fantastic display, which is your speedometer cluster, and I think this looks very cool. And now when you look at the tail end, this section is identical to the 390 Adventure. And also the underbelly exhaust, even though this is a more purpose built hardcore off-road motorcycle, you still get an underbelly exhaust, but we did not face any problem with that unit in our review. Even while we were water crossing, even when we were doing hardcore trail riding over rocks, over gravel, when we are getting some air time, jumping over some sections, no problems, no complaints in terms of the cycle parts of this motorcycle. Now let me tell you everything about the features of this bike. Now speaking about the features, first when you look at the motorcycle from the front end, you will notice you get a different looking LED headlamp, very small, smoked effect, and it looks very nice. You have this very tight bikini fairing, a small fairing around this headlamp unit, and the number plate is going to be mounted over here. Let me just fire up the motorcycle and show you how the headlamp looks like. So here goes. So this is your high beam, all right, and also you will notice that you get LED turn indicators, and I don't think you have hazard lights as an option. I can't see that button over here. So just LED turn indicators, no hazard light functionality. This is how the horn sounds. Let me kill the engine. Then you have this beak structure, typical of off-road motorcycles, and this is very flexible. This is not going to break. So when you go hardcore trail riding, if you hit some obstacle, this is not going to break very easily, and it is also not going to lose shape. Of course, this bike also, this KTM 390 Enduro R, is making use of the same materials for the body panels, where the graphics are infused with the body panels. So even if you drop your motorcycle, if you get it scratched while riding through trails, the graphics, they will still be visible because the colors are infused, and it will keep looking like a good motorcycle even after taking some beating. Lower down, when you look at it, you will notice you get these spoked wheels. Now this disc brake is smaller in size compared to the 390 Adventure. Again, have a look at this. These are Enduro trail tires, and these are proper knobby tires for off-roading. 90, 90, 21. 21-inch wheel and a generous side profile, because these tires are supposed to take you off-road more confidently. And in terms of grip, I had no complaints with these tires that are offered to you as stock. Now KTM says that these Mitas tires will be available in the aftermarket if you are buying this Enduro R, this 390 Enduro R. So after some use and abuse, if you want to replace the tires, they should be available in the market. Then when you look at this section, you will notice that there is not too much of body panels going around over here. This fuel tank is a metal unit, but it is smaller compared to the 390 Adventure, because they wanted to keep the motorcycle on the lighter side of the weighing scale. This panel again is very different. You will notice the Enduro R branding over here, and then like I said, check this out. You can't really peel off the sticker because everything is infused with the panels. I really like the colors, but I wish that this fuel tank, the color over here was similar to what we saw on the 390 Adventure, the final lots which were sold. I think that shade of blue would have really enhanced the styling appeal of this motorcycle. But then that is just me. Looks are subjective, colors are subjective. And here you will notice that you have a lot of orange, you have a lot of white, and you have a lot of this, metal finish, this gray finish or black finish. I think it's gray. But I think this is a good looking motorcycle, and typical of KTM's, it has a lot of orange. Now as you can notice, you get upside down front forks, WP Apex, open cartridge, upside down front forks. Nice fork gaiters to protect the suspension travel from dust and dirt and damage. And you will notice that this mudguard is only halfway. So this section is exposed, but this section is going to protect your engine components from dust and dirt and rocks and pebbles, whatnot, wherever you will ride this motorcycle. The bash plate of this motorcycle is shared with the KTM 390 Adventure, so that is not new. Now speaking about the suspension, again you will notice you have adjustable suspension. On the right hand side you have this rebound adjustment, and on the left hand side you have compression adjustment, and it is very easy to do this, and in just a few weeks of time of ownership you will know which setting suits your riding style the best. Now before we move further, let me clarify a few numbers. The upside down front forks, the WP Apex open cartridge 43 mm diameter suspension, that is going to offer you 30 step adjustment for rebound and compression, 200 millimeters of front wheel travel. At the back you have a monoshock which is going to offer you 20 step adjustment for damping and 10 step adjustment for preload, along with 205 millimeters of rear wheel travel. The front brake size is 285 millimeters. The rear brake size is 240 millimeters. At the front you have a 1990-21 tire, and at the back you have a 140-80-18 tire, and these tires are of course for enduro riding. These are proper knobby tires. The dry weight of this vehicle is 170 kg, the curb weight is 177 kg, and the vehicle gross weight, KTM says, is 327 kgs. The overall height is 1210 millimeters. The wheelbase is 1470 millimeters plus or minus 10 millimeters. The ground clearance is 253 millimeters and the seat height is 860 millimeters. The fuel tank capacity reduced for this Enduro R is 9 liters. Now getting back to the aesthetics of this motorcycle, as you can notice, I showed you that there is a lot of orange and grey or dark grey or black, whatever you would like to call it, along with white. The chassis is painted in orange, and you will notice that the engine section, this LC4C engine, this side is black, the cylinder head is in a grey shade, and then you will notice that the bash plate also has a dual tone effect. There is some black and there is that metallic finish too, and there is this heat shield over here as well, so that your foot does not feel the heat too much. This crash guard is also quite useful, quite purpose built, and we saw a few bikes being dropped yesterday when we were riding it through some trails, and that part did its job. So you don't have to buy an ungainly looking, ugly looking aftermarket crash guard. This I think is more than sufficient. And then when you look at this section, which is identical to the 390 Adventure 2, the new model, the 390 branding is over here, this white panel is identical, the grab rails are also identical, and then when you move to the tail end, the tail lamp too is identical, a very small unit, and then you will notice you have your LED turn indicators and a proper mudguard. There is no tire hugger which is seen over here, and that is not offered with these new motorcycles. Of course you will get a sari guard because that is a requirement here in the Indian market, but this is how it looks from the tail end, this new 390 Enduro R. And I think this design language, the rearward design of this product, of this new 390 series for off the road, I think this suits more for the Enduro R compared to the 390 Adventure. But then again, that is subjective. What do you think? You let us know in the comments below. Have a look at the rear wheel now. Like I said, 18-inch wheels, and just have a look at that side profile. Look at that Mitas tire. Now this has offered us fantastic grip when we were riding it off the road, when we were jumping off and getting some air time. Ever since we landed, instantly we got decent grip, good traction, and as you can notice, all the spokes are in place. They are going to take that extra bit of beating without damaging, and as you can notice, there is no bend on the rim either. And the main highlight why you are getting these tube type tires, these tube type spoke wheels, is that if you are going hardcore off-roading, which you can do on this motorcycle a little bit more than the 390 Adventure, is that if you hit a rock, if you hit a tree bark or anything, any obstacle, if you go a little harder and if the rim bends, you still have that tube, so you can still go back home comfortably. Of course, it is not going to be as dynamically rich, it is not ideal, but still you can keep moving forward. On a tubeless spoke trim, if you puncture that seal, maybe you would have been stuck. But these tires, that is why they are of the tube type, so that you can keep going further and harder compared to alloy wheels or those tubeless spoked wheels. Now, would you still be willing to accept the chances of a puncture and to fix it? Again, that is something that you have to let us know. Speaking about the finer details, the rear swing arm is the same and the pegs are also the same, and you have rubber tops even for the pillion. We have removed the rubber top over here on our review unit today, and this foot peg for the rider, this unit, this black unit over here, you can flip it, so it will change position and then it will give you a variance in height where you want the foot peg to be. So that is also quite nice as a feature to have. This foot brake for your rear brake, this also has locking positions, so you can adjust it depending on your foot size, your shoe size and your preference. So that also gives you that extra bit of versatility. Now this motorcycle has similar suspension travel compared to the 390 Adventure, but the suspension tune is very different, so the way it sags is different. This bike has higher sidewall for the tires, and also because it has an 18-inch rear wheel, that has helped increase the ground clearance and the seat height too. So because of the tires, maybe the ground clearance has gone up, but the seat height overall has gone up because of the tires, because of the suspension tune, and because this seat has more padding. It has a different foam, and I thought that this seat was more comfortable compared to the 390 Adventure, and it also offered me very good range of motion because it is a one-piece unit, so you can slide around forwards and backwards and you can feel more comfortable when you are on the saddle. So the seat I really like, and also it is very slim over here between your legs, and because of that you can ride this motorcycle very confidently and get your feet on the ground without struggling too much, even though the seat height has gone up. So that also is a strong positive. But for the pillion, the padding is not so much and the seat space is also not so much. So this could be a struggle for your pillion. But then if you are buying a KTM 390 Enduro R, are you really bothered about having a pillion? And if at all you are carrying along a pillion, are you really bothered about their comfort? Now you let us know what are your thoughts about the pillion comfort on an enduro motorcycle. Is that going to make or break the deal for you? Subjective, but let us know. So on the left hand side you will notice that you have this half chain cover. This is going to make your life easy to maintain the chain and clean it. These protectors over here, they will ensure that your foot stays inside and safe. This is for your heel and your ankle, and then this gear lever, as you can notice, this is going to bend this way, so it is not going to be braking too soon, too often when you are going off the road. So I really like it. And then again on this side you will notice there is a lot of black that is seen. On that side you saw a lot of grey of the engine cylinder head. This side is dominated by black and a lot of panels which are seen over here. Speaking about tire pressure, have a look at this. That sticker has been placed over here on the chassis component. And then when you look at this motorcycle from this side, this is how it looks. The underbelly exhaust is not really seen from the left hand side, and if you read this, the airbox access is positioned over here, and things are very easy in terms of access on this new range of KTM 390 motorcycles. The first gen first lot KTM 390 Adventure, everything was just placed too tightly and access was a bit tricky. For a simple thing as simple as replacing a front turn indicator, you had to completely remove the dome of that motorcycle, and it would take hours to fix just one broken turn indicator. Over here things are very easy. You can just very quickly access the broken part and replace it, and this is convenient not just for you the customer, but even for the service and engineering team, so that they do not waste a lot of time. Speaking about other changes, this knuckle guard on this Enduro R, as you can notice, is also offered to you in black, and this is also going to last the distance. We saw a lot of bikes being dropped, if not crashed but dropped, and none of the knuckle guards were broken. We saw a lot of them and everything was in place on every single motorcycle. So that shows that these body parts, these panels, will last in your ownership cycle. Now let us speak about this speedometer cluster. So check this out. Right now, this is how it looks when the bike is not turned on. Now, giving it the ignition, ready to race, typical KTM, and then you will notice this is the display that you get, and this is the joystick to control all the functionality over here. Now this is a small unit, but KTM says that it is not lacking in any functionality. They have done this on this Enduro R so that you, the rider on an enduro motorcycle, keeps looking forward and not at the speedometer cluster. So they have tried to keep it minimum along with all the information that you need. So right now this is in standard format. So check this out. You have your tachometer, you have your gear position indicator, you have your speed readout, and then you also have your selected ride mode displayed to you and whichever setting is activated or deactivated. Now check this out. This joystick over here, this is very easy to use even when you wear gloves, and accessing it is also ideal in terms of thumb placement when you are riding it. So it is very naturally positioned. Now have a look at the speedometer cluster. Let me show you the different modes. So check this out. The ride modes, you have off-road and you have street. You only have 2 riding modes available, and in each mode you have some custom options. Okay, so say for example you select street mode. Now you can configure street mode. So check this out. In street mode you can configure traction control in off or street mode. You can configure the quick shifter to be on or off, and the display mode can be configured to be in standard mode or reduced mode. So let me just show this to you. This is how reduced mode looks. This is different compared to the speedometer layout you saw before. Going back to ride modes. So this time I am going to off-road mode, and now when I configure off-road mode, check this out. Traction control can be set at off or off-road, quick shifter can go on or off, and display mode can again go from standard to reduced. So these are the options that you have over here in terms of your rider modes and configuration, and it is always shown to you over here as well. What I want to reiterate, or what I want to inform you about, is that these modes, street and off-road, these are identical in terms of the throttle map that you get on the 390 Adventure as well. You are not getting a rain mode on this motorcycle, but whatever modes are offered to you here, they are exactly the same as on the 390 Adventure. But what is going to make the difference is that you have a rear wheel, which is an 18-inch wheel, and you also have different sprockets on this motorcycle. So that is why this bike will ride a bit different. Now on the switch cube you will notice you also have this button. This is a quick access button to activate or deactivate ABS. Have a look at the speedometer cluster. Right now ABS is deactivated, and it is very easy to deactivate or activate ABS very quickly when you are on the go, when you want better control over the brakes and you don't want ABS to kick in and interfere in your riding experience. The switch cubes, very good quality, very easy to access even while wearing gloves. This is your horn, this is your turn indicator, this is your controller joystick, this is for the ABS on and off, and then up top you have this button which is for your high beam and low beam and a pass functionality too. The clutch lever, you have it adjustable, and likewise the brake lever too is adjustable on this 390 Enduro R. Also this ignition control for your engine kill switch and your starter button, this is similar to the 390 Adventure, and again quality is top notch. The finishing is very good. Now this handlebar of this motorcycle is different compared to the 390 Adventure. It is different in terms of its width, its positioning, and the way you sit on this motorcycle. So that is why you will have a better sense of control on this motorcycle, especially when you are riding this off the road. So this handlebar, although it is finished in black and you might think that, oh, it looks just the same, it is different. And also these risers, they are also different compared to the 390 Adventure. But even for my height, 5 feet 8 inches, I weigh 85 kg, I think that it was still a bit lower when I was riding this bike standing up. So that is something that you will have to keep in mind if you are buying the Enduro R. Maybe if you are taller, you might need slightly higher handlebar risers. And next to the speedometer cluster over here, you also have a USB charging point to have your accessories and gadgets charged on the go. Again, have a look at this speedometer cluster. When you fire up the motorcycle, check this out. This is how the revs will look like. And let me just show you the reduced speedometer screen, the display mode. So check this out. This was standard. Now we are on reduced, and now there is no rev counter that you are going to notice over here. So that is a finer detail which I am sharing with you, and all these things are going to definitely matter or make your riding experience look and feel different compared to the standard 390 Adventure and the Adventure X. Now the rear monoshock, you can adjust it very simply with a screw or maybe with a coin. It depends on how easily you can access those tools, but the reach to this adjustment point is not tricky at all. The cables are also very nicely and neatly managed, and as you can notice, the underbelly exhaust is not at all broken. Of course, there is a lot of dust and dirt because we were trail riding this motorcycle, but it has lasted and it has not broken at all. So don't worry about ground clearance, don't worry about that low hanging, low positioned underbelly exhaust. Everything has been thought through and everything has worked. Yesterday, someone even dropped this motorcycle while we were river crossing, picked it up, fired it up, and it was good to go. So no concerns at all. Now let's speak about the ergonomics and primarily about this standing up position. So check this out. My height is 5 feet 8 inches, like I said, and if I stand on the ball of my feet, this is how I'll sit. I can grab on to the bike very easily, and there is good room for me to move around, and the positioning is quite nice. It is not very neutral in terms of me being upright. I would have liked if the handlebar was a bit more higher because I'm still leaning forward a fair bit. If I would have been taller, if you are 5 feet 10 or more, then you will feel that you are leaning forward and bending a bit too much for standing up riding. So maybe you would need handlebar risers which are a bit taller than what is offered. But for my height and my body type, I could manage riding the trail very effortlessly, and this was not scary and this was not tiring too. I was very happy throughout my 1 hour long hardcore off-road trail and some fast switchbacks too. So no problems over there. Now when I sit on the bike, check this out. 5 feet 8 inches in height. This is the amount of reach that I get. Not bad at all. Now this seat height of this KTM 390 Enduro R is higher than my first gen first lot KTM 390 Adventure, which was launched a few years ago. Now this is having you sit higher, but because this section over here is slimmer, you have better reach to the ground, and because of that you will be more confident. So don't be intimidated by that seat height number. If you want to buy an enduro motorcycle, go to your nearest KTM showroom, sit on it and understand for yourself. Every body is different, male or female. Your thighs are different, your lower section, your legs, the length is different, your inseam is different, and your upper body is also different. So rider positioning, rider preference, rider confidence varies from person to person. So you will know best when you try out the motorcycle. Do not blindly believe all reviewers, including me, because all of this is subjective. Confidence is in you, not in what we say. But still, for easy understanding, this is no problem at all. The foot pegs are rear set. You get a very nice sporty position, and as you can notice, there is very good room for you to move around when you are trail riding, when you are off-roading, when you want to slide it. So this is going to give you good confidence, and because of this good range of motion, you can play around that dusty trail, or move behind when you are riding it on a tricky section, and then come up close to the fuel tank too whenever you want to get better sense of control. And overall, just handling the weight of this motorcycle was no problem at all. And again, have a look at this. My shoes are getting dirty, but good reach to the ground. And for my height and my body type, this is how I look on a KTM 390 Enduro R. 5 feet 8 inches in height, 85 kg of weight. So if you are similar, this is how you're going to look like on this motorcycle. Now you don't see any mirrors on this motorcycle, but you are going to get those circular round type mirrors which you've seen on the Husqvarna range of products, not the same mirrors which you see on the 390 Adventure. So that is also a difference that you will notice with the 390 Enduro R. When you want to grab onto the motorcycle, there is this panel which allows you to, very nicely move your foot over here. And again, this is not going to get damaged, the decals, because this is within that panel. This is not a sticker on top of that panel. I really like these small attention to detail elements because of this, your motorcycle will keep looking fresh for a longer time. But then again, if you're buying an Enduro R, having the bike look fresh for a long time is defeating the purpose, isn't it? Now let's start talking about the riding experience of this KTM 390 Enduro R, because that is different compared to the 390 Adventure. Before we start talking about it, let us get the numbers out of the way. Now powering the KTM 390 Enduro R, of course, is the same engine. This is the 398.63cc LC4C liquid cooled 4-stroke single cylinder DOHC motor, which produces 46 PS of power at 8500 RPM and 39 Newton meters of torque at 6500 RPM. You get a 6-speed gearbox coupled with a slipper and assist clutch. You get ride-by-wire as well. And this motorcycle is going to offer you riding modes which I have already shown you what they are on the speedometer display. Now we did ask KTM how different is the riding experience going to be, if at all there are any changes to the engine components, and they said no. The engine components are the same, it is just the sprockets which are different. The throttle maps are also identical, so there is no change over there. The riding modes, like I said, off-road and street, identical the way the bike will perform compared to the 390 Adventure. It is just that you do not get a rain mode with this motorcycle. Now what you get extra with this bike is that you get this ABS button over here, a quick access button to deactivate ABS completely. Of course, you do get dual channel ABS, but you can deactivate it completely too if you want better control over the brakes. But then you do not get cruise control like functionality with this KTM 390 Enduro R. But then again, on an enduro motorcycle, it doesn't really make sense. I don't know if cruise control will make a comeback on this look of a format with the Supermoto variant of the 390, but then that is some time away. But for now, this is what you get. And speaking about the exhaust note, how this bike sounds, let us listen to it. All right, so the same engine, the same exhaust, and when you fire it up, this is how it sounds. A one-touch starter. This is at idle. This is at medium revs. And this is at the higher rev range. So nothing extraordinary, no major change at all. But compared to the first generation of KTM 390 Dukes, this sounds a lot different and a lot less tinny. Now I already spoke about the ergonomics and the body positioning. I have already shown you the features. Now when you combine all of that along with the engine of this motorcycle and the performance that it packs, let me tell you that this 390 Enduro R is a much capable motorcycle off the road in comparison to the 390 Adventure, because it is easier to access, it is easier to operate, it is slimmer, it is lighter, and also because of that 18-inch rear wheel and that 21-inch front wheel, you can tackle obstacles much better, and the ground clearance has also been no complaint at all. I did not hit anything at all throughout my trail ride, throughout my review ride. I want to tell you that if you are buying a new format of a motorcycle, know your limits first. Do not try to explore the limits of a motorcycle. If you hear some other reviews speaking about that the bike is maybe not so complete off the road, just check if those riders are more complete in terms of their off-road ability rather than just bashing the product. This is more than sufficient. This motorcycle, KTM says, is for the beginner who wants to get into this enduro category, who wants to hardcore off-road on a motorcycle. Yes, it is still a rather powerful motorcycle for beginners, but then if you consider your learning curve, this can stay with you for longer because of that higher power output. You will not get bored with this motorcycle, and this is more than enough for trail kind of riding experiences. So that way, this bike, although for beginners, this can be a good motorcycle for the expert riders too, to have fun when the tarmac ends. Now let me tell you that we were not allowed to ride this bike on tarmac at all. We were riding this bike only on trails and on broken terrain, and I don't know why that was done, but anyway, off the road this bike was really shining. But if you ride this bike on tarmac, maybe because of these knobby tires and maybe because of the engine vibration which we have spoken about in our KTM 390 adventure review, this wouldn't have been a very pleasant experience on tarmac. So maybe that was a cheat code by KTM to ensure that the reviews stay positive. But never mind, off the road no complaints, but because of these knobby tires, on road things could be a bit noisy as well. So that is something that you should take consideration of if you go for a long test ride of this 390 Enduro R. Now speaking about the suspension tune, now the tuning is completely different. Yes, it looks the same, yes, the numbers are the same, but KTM has insisted that this is a different suspension tune, a different state of tune completely. And you can't really tell that much because we did not get too long with the 390 adventure off the road, and even with this Enduro R, although we were primarily riding it only off the road, we have only spent hours with this motorcycle, if not days. But speaking about capability, I did not bottom out the suspension anywhere. For my height, my weight, my body type, the suspension did a fine job of keeping me comfortable too on the trail, and it was not too stiff or bone jarring that I was unsettled often and that I was tired. And in terms of the seat comfort too, the padding is much better. It is more padded compared to the 390 adventure, so this cushioning is also good in terms of giving you comfort when the trail is a lot bumpier, and if you like to sit on your bike till the time you have more confidence to stand up and go through a trail. So if you feel nervous, just sit on the motorcycle and you can tackle that trail. And because of this slimmer profile, you can reach the ground faster too, so you can manage the weight of the bike if at all it tips to one side. So do not be scared, this is an easy motorcycle to ride. I tried to keep it on the side, lay it low and then pick it up, and yes, it is not the lightest of an off-road enduro motorcycle, but it is not difficult to lift it back up. So this, if you take it off the road alone, it is not a bike which will require you to call for help. You will be able to pick it up. Speaking about the tires, they have offered us very good grip. We rode this motorcycle on gravel, on dusty surface, through water when we were water wading, and through rocks and uphill, downhill, on really broken terrain. These tires offered very good grip. You also have traction control which can be set to off-road setting, so that also helps if you are a beginner. So that gives you better sense of control over the motorcycle and the way you want to throttle it out. So these tires, the sizing, 18 rear, 21 front, good obstacle overcoming ability too, and really good grip. Yes, it does slide a bit at times, but then that is because the bike has so much power, and if you are not careful about your throttle input, you can have some sideways fun, but that sideways fun can also catch you off guard if you do not keep track of it, because we know that these KTM 390s are really aggressive, these are really powerful motorcycles. So if you're a beginner, make sure that you understand the power delivery before you go all out throttle open. Speaking about the brakes of this motorcycle, yes, there is a smaller front disc, but KTM says that that was a conscious decision so that you get better control over the motorcycle. You don't really want a larger disc with a more sharper bite on a motorcycle which you are going to enjoy off the road. Nevertheless, you get a sintered brake pad at the front, organic brake pad at the rear, but in terms of braking abilities off the road, we did not face any challenge. Now, is this braking setup good enough on the tarmac if you're going to, say for example, cruise at 100 kilometers per hour? That we will have to find out if and when KTM gives this motorcycle to us back in the office to test in Mumbai. But so far the brakes did not let me down at all, and I could have the bike well within my limits and my control easily, even after getting some air time after landing and then controlling it in a very tight circuit. No problems at all. This KTM 390 Enduro R, the kit that it gets is good enough. Of course, you would like to want more. You would like to compare it to maybe international spec motorcycles. Maybe you would want to buy that better suspension, which you can, by the way, and you can retrofit on this bike too. But as is, right out of the showroom, I wouldn't change a bit. This was good enough for my riding style and my requirements. Now, we did report vibrations with the new 390 Adventure, but on this KTM 390 Enduro R, we did not get to notice that much because we were off the road and we were really going through some nasty trails. So we will have to wait and test it out in the calmer environment to report if vibrations is going to be a major concern on this motorcycle or not. But for today, I don't think I faced any challenge off the road, especially because then you are not worried about vibrations. You just want to consider how good the control is, how good the controllability of this motorcycle is, and this was a great experience. So guys, that is pretty much it. That is all that I want to share with you about this KTM 390 Enduro R. I have really enjoyed this motorcycle, and I think it does make a lot of sense for someone whose primary intent is to ride this bike off the road. But if you want to go long distance touring, the 390 Adventure is still a much better product for you because it has a larger fuel tank and it has that dome structure which is going to offer you better wind protection at higher cruising speeds, and then you also have cruise control. But off the road, this orange 390 Enduro R is a lot of fun. If you have any other questions, ask us in the comments below. I will be more than happy to help you out. Till next time, subscribe to the Shifting Gears channel, press that bell icon, always ride safe and wear proper riding gear.